Yeah.
Hello, Dr. Wiggins, and welcome to our post-7 discussion. I'm Emma Miller,
I'm Molly Linnell. Mackenzie Bradburn.
Elisa Madsen.
and we're going to be talking about language acquisition.
Woohoo!
Yay! So what did you guys think of Krashen? Is that how you say his name? Dr. Krashen?
Is that the video?
Yeah.
Oh wait, we read about him too.
Yeah, we read about it too.
Like all about him.
It was interesting because in the videos, and then Emma, your part of it was how does Vygotsky's theories? It's like a total matchup to Vygotsky with, I don't know if he was the one who said that with, what was it, the comprehensible input needs to be like within their zone of proximal development type thing. Like
Yeah.
it has to be challenging but not too challenging. Yeah, so that was pretty interesting.
I saw that too with learning Spanish, and when someone's just talking really fast and you don't get anything, you just zone out.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so I can see how if it's too challenging, it won't help.
Yeah.
You can watch that in students in like classrooms, just like all of a sudden it's just like, why even try? Like I don't know what you're saying.
Yeah, well, and I think that's also kind of part of the, like, isn't that one of the factors of the affective filter? It's just being like overwhelmed or stressed out.
Yeah,
And then you
that was
and
the-
it'll block your learning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like saying that if a student feels too much like they're uncomfortable almost, then they're not going to do well. And so what you have to do is like first teach them like you can write and read and do all these things and like believe in them, and then like start teaching them like the structure of things, because without their like belief that they can do it, then they'll just shut off and like their brains won't like function. And I think that goes for anything. Like it could be with language, but it could also be like we talked earlier in one of our posts about like I remember for me it was like when I would like spell words wrong, and then I just wouldn't stop writing like certain sentences and
Yeah.
words and stuff. And so I think that like goes for like anything, but especially for language, because like if you feel like you can't speak it or understand it, then like why would you want to?
Be embarrassed. Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd be like quiet. That makes sense.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting how he said that it's the ability to speak language is acquired and not learned through these grammatical rules, because that's how language is taught, is through grammatical rules. And wondering why, I guess it's starting to change, but
And then like in high school, it's so much more focused on like grammar than interactions. And, but I was kind of thinking about that too, like, and I guess since it's more my experience, like, rather than I haven't really worked a ton with the ELLs, so all the things I think about are like how I learned Spanish, and like how do we make that, or can we make that situation more, like, how we acquire our first language, like how do we make the high school setting as if we were all babies? That's how I thought of it.
especially when you're trying to teach curriculum where maybe the majority of your students understand everything you say.
Well, I think that comes like into like how many times have I talked about my Spanish class and my like Spanish teacher that I had for 4 years. Like I sucked at Spanish, like I know like a few things here and there, but like making the classroom into like actual simulations of like an airport or a bus station, or like we did job interviews in Spanish, and like making it like applicable. And I think that played into us like learning with, she would still make it like comfortable, and we'd have like what we needed to like understand the things, but like I think that helps play like more into like language acquisition, and like she would have like students from like the AP Spanish class like come into like AP or Spanish 1 and like
that's super cool.
be the people who facilitate it. So like you're talking to people who are like speaking way more than you can speak, and like learning from them, or like having like Spanish speakers from our school like come into the class And so I think that was super helpful because it made it much more like a part of like the culture.
More genuine
When you
interactions.
can't like get that because you're not traveling abroad, but
Mhm.
you can bring that into the classroom. And so I think like she didn't make us feel like babies, but she made us feel like a part of the culture
Yeah,
more.
yeah. I was thinking about your airplane, or airport, like
Simulation thing. Yeah.
simulation all throughout this, cause yeah, for acquisition, yeah, it has to just be more of a genuine experience. And I was even thinking about that too with, like Emma, you did the language as functional review, and how, like, Yvonne in the previous chapter had, like, asked her adult students, like, well, why are you learning this language? And so even with ELLs, you know, if we, you know, like, obviously they need to learn it in order to survive, but if we say to them, like, you know, what, like, yeah, you kind of have to learn this because you're living in the United States
Yeah.
and you're in school that teaches in English, but like, what would you like to do? Would you like to be able to understand music on the radio, or would you like to be able to talk to people about basketball in English, like just make it more interesting to them? I think would be
Yeah.
a really good way to do it.
And I like how your Spanish teacher brought in students with more Spanish speaking abilities in the class. Because that like makes that interaction, especially if they're both learning English as non-native speakers,
Yeah.
like they can understand the struggle.
yeah. Yeah, it definitely, it just like helps because I think when you speak to someone who's learning the same language as you, it's very like choppy, and like they talked about that in the chapter, how it was like you can speak it in your classroom and then you go and you're like trying to speak to someone who speaks Spanish and you're like, what the heck are you saying? I have no idea, because it's so much like more choppy and like limited, the vocabulary is so limited and like the fluency is not there, and yeah, so I mean like I just totally related to that, like being able to like in class like be like, oh yeah, I got this, and then like going to Nicaragua and being like, what the heck are you saying, children? I have no idea. You're like 5 years old.
Well, and then kid Spanish too is different because we think of how you know younger kids talk in English, and
Right.
we can figure out that they're saying like Pescetti because we know that, but if you know, little kids speaking Spanish are butchering Spanish words, so we're gonna, you know, we're gonna have no idea what they're saying.
That's
Yeah.
true. I'm wondering if you could, or if an ELL like mentorship program exists for students who have learned English.
That's cool.
Can
Yeah.
mentor students who are learning English.
I don't think I've like ever heard of that, but why would we not have that?
Yeah.
And that makes me think of that girl we met, Maybelline.
Virginia.
Yeah, so she was so cool. We just kind of ran into her doing this other project that we were doing, and she was like 19 or 20, and she had just graduated from Cedar-Woolley, and I'm pretty sure she was born in the United States and had both languages, but I'm not sure about her parents. But maybe, was she an ELL student?
I don't know if she was.
I'm trying to remember. I know that she kind of grappled with her, like, caring about her Mexican heritage and her culture, and then when she graduated, she became a paraprofessional working with the ELL students, and you know, and she's a total success story. So for them to have her to look up to as like, you know, this proud, intelligent, success Mexican American story, and
Yeah.
she was
That
really
was
cool.
And that makes me want to do something like that on more of a like organized scale.
Yeah. I feel like that'd be really cool for like high school students even to like go into like elementary schools or something, because it would like how cool is that to get students like helping younger students like succeed in like an area that maybe like they had a really hard time in, and like why
And also
yeah.
realize how far they've come.
Yeah, I think on both levels that would just be really cool.
Emma, so work. on that.
Yeah, so you
Future goal.
developed that?
You guys too.
Yeah, wow, that's.
There are like types of schools, oh, what are they called? That, where the older kids help the younger kids.
Well, there's like buddies and
Yeah.
schools and stuff.
No, there's like a
Reading
specific
buddies?
kind of school.
Oh, okay.
That's
Like
like
for
for-
ELL or?
Just like in general, but they probably could create something like specifically for it.
Yeah.
I'm sure if we looked, there would be a program.
No, I think Emma invented it.
Oh no, I'm sure it exists. I
But like,
haven't
I
really
feel like
seen
it's
it.
not very like
Yeah.
common.
Yeah, and like Elisa, what you said, that's kind of a Vygotsky thing too,
Yeah.
where it used to be more natural, and like when when kids are out playing together in the neighborhood, they are in age range
Mhm.
groups, like a few years, and then when they get into the classroom, it's kind of unnatural
Yeah.
to have it be like, oh, you were born on this day, so you're in this class, but you were born 2 weeks later, so you're in this group. And so yeah, to have a range of, I'm trying to remember what Vygotsky said about that. Or maybe it was
Abilities.
Piaget. Yeah. Because yeah, having a more capable peer,
Yeah.
Mm.
even if the peer is a few years older.
I was really what you were saying about having like ELL students teach ELL students and that kind of thing, to like how we talk about that we need more role models of like teachers that are like of color, or like male teachers, like all those kinds of things, and how we talk about like how important that is, and that we might not be able to give that to our students necessarily, but I think that like that's the same type of thing.
Oh yeah. That's a good point.
Molly, I liked your questions that you put about psycholinguistics.
Oh.
How
Oh,
does-
let me find
did
it.
you make these?
No.
Okay.
No, so yeah, so that was in the text. So yeah, my part of it is just the first paragraph, and then it's like I just typed straight out of the book, so we
Oh,
can
I
have
see
it.
it's in quotes now. I see.
Yeah,
that.
so that we can have it to refer to.
Yeah.
And I want answers to those questions, like they were, how does the learner develop his or her second language system? What are thought to be the processes involved? What role does previous knowledge, such as the first language, play in SLA, which I thought was a really interesting question. And then what psychological characteristics contribute to successful SLA? Whether good learners and bad learners.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel
That
like
last
there's not.
question.
I know
It's a
that,
little
yeah,
morbid.
I know that also.
I do feel like there's certain people who pick up like those types of things like faster than other people,
Probably.
and like I don't know why necessarily they do, but like if you're in a Spanish class or you're in like a French class or something, there's the people who like don't really have to try very hard and like can just like pick it up. Whereas like I was sitting there and I was like, I don't even know how to spell in English. How am I supposed to spell in Spanish? But that's a good question of like, are there psychological characteristics that contribute to the success?
Probably.
Yeah.
Like belief in yourself
Mhm.
too. You
Yeah,
feel
that's
like
true.
you're capable in English. Maybe you feel more like you're be capable in another language.
I remember
Yeah.
learning in like ed psych a long time ago, like if you have something called self-fulfilled prophecy where you think you can't do very well, like you're not gonna try harder and you're not gonna do very well. So that like idea probably plays a role in that too.
Yeah.
But then it's also, and I don't know if this has been debunked, if like there's like a math science part of the brain, and like has that been debunked?
Well,
And
the
like
right
a
and left
language,
side. of the
like
brain has
well, like
it.
the literal like things aren't actually like
Yeah.
on the right and left. But like I know I'm personally, and maybe this is a self-fulfilling prophecy, like yeah, better at writing and language, like yeah, like Spanish and French were really easy for me to pick up, but like math and science is harder for me. So yeah, do I have psychological characteristics that?
Maybe. I think it probably stems from your interests in growing up,
Yeah.
and you develop those skills more because you're interested in them.
That's true.
I never thought of it like that yet, I guess. I don't like math at all, so like I'm bad at math because I don't like math.
Yeah.
And then of course societal, that, you know, we're women and so we're not supposed to like math.
Yeah.
There you
Or
go,
science.
yeah, that's true. What was I gonna say? Something about the brain. Was it? Sorry. I think I was gonna ask like, it asked if there was a certain spot that you
Yeah.
you acquire language, a second language, and is that a different process?
Yeah, where in the brain are first and second language is located.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting because if you think of your first language, like you're a baby and you just kind of learn it, like there's not a lot to it. But then if you do like a second language, it can be a lot harder is that because you're older or
Well,
but if you're bilingual when you're younger?
in my Spanish linguistics class, we learned that when you're a baby, you can make every single sound possible. But then the neurosynapses in your brain start forming for the ones and getting stronger for the ones you use in your language and you hear around you, and the other ones kind of die and decay. So we actually lose the ability to say those sounds. That
So
aren't
there's
in
like
language.
that critical period after between 8 and 10 months or whatever.
Probably,
But-
right, yeah.
Then they kept also saying that we never lose the language acquisition device. Did anybody specifically write about that? Because I was kind of confused.
That we never lose the language acquisition device.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Krashen talked about it as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's just that.
I feel like the older you get, just like the less and less they're like. But I think you can always like learn a language, like if you really, really try.
I
But-
think this goes along with sociolinguistic research versus neurolinguistic research.
Mm-hmm.
And so that information on like synapses decaying and is neurolinguistic, it's how your brain actually works.
Mhm.
Whereas like sociolinguistic is you could probably try really hard and have a lot of interactions with people even when you're older and learn the language, though you might have an accent.
I think it also is like,
Good point.
oh my gosh. The necessity for it. It was talking about like
Yeah.
the need for another language also affects the way that you learn a language. And so like, if you're in like France and you don't know anything that they're saying, you're probably going to learn it because there's a necessity to talk to people and like,
Yeah.
communicate.
Yeah. And then also, you know, they always say like, well, it's so much harder to learn a second language because you're older. And we know that about the synapses, but it's also the way that we teach a second language
Yeah.
to older people or
Through
high school
grammar.
people. Yeah, through grammar or just through ways that are totally not natural, the way that we know language is acquired.
One Krashen said like, was that him in the video? Who said like, I'm a grammar, like I graduated
Yeah.
with grammar and like
Yeah.
grammar is my thing and now I don't need, like now I don't believe that grammar is the best way to teach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was interesting how he's like, well, classrooms teach grammar so that they prepare you for at least like trying to go out somewhere and understand it, and then you can learn more.
I think that makes
social
sense, yeah.
context. 'Cause
Yeah.
I think that totally makes sense, because if you just went to a random country and you didn't know anything, like you wouldn't necessarily learn it. But as long as you have like some basis understanding of like
Yeah.
Some
what's happening, you could
vocabulary,
like
yeah.
think about it before you like try and say it, and you would like relate it to what someone is talking to you about. But yeah.
Yeah, I think you said that in here, Elisa, that
Mm-hmm.
the point of a class is to make you like a beginner or
Yeah, that's how
And
he
then-
said it.
and then once you like get out into the world, then you're supposed to become an intermediate. And I liked also the cycle kind of that he was like, you have to like start with some grammar and some acquisition, and then you go out and comprehensible input,
yeah.
and then you go out and get interaction, which gives you more comprehensible input, which gives you more interaction. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. That reminds me of, I went to Panama for 2 months in high school and had taken 3 years of Spanish before that, so I was probably like an intermediate beginner. Went out there, couldn't understand the thing for a while, then started understanding stuff, and then I really wanted my Spanish book to look up the past tense again.
Yeah.
Because, like, now I could use it and it made sense and I wanted to use it right.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Like going back to that, like grammar context, now that you know the language, that you can get the grammar, yeah.
Yeah, like ready for the next step.
And that made me think of the monitor. I really
Yeah.
liked the idea of learning about the monitor, because I have one, I totally have one in English. There's a few phrases where I'm like, okay, is it affect with an A or an E? You know, and then is it further, is it farther? And I know when I'm speaking Spanish at work, I'm like, okay, make sure you use the usted form. I know it's like you're talking to a third person, but she's sitting right in front of her, but it'd be rude to use the to form. But pretend like you're talking about a third person. And then when and they're so sweet and like patient with me, but I'm like, when I try and form a complex, like with subjunctives or conditionals, and then my monitor totally kicks in, and I'm like, okay, if it's an A verb, then I use it under an E. So, whereas I kind of think of my brother was probably a better example of he took probably from the same Spanish teacher that I did. I don't even know how far he got, Spanish 100 or 200. He speaks way better Spanish than I do because he got he never did his homework or anything, but he got some like basic grammar and some practice in class of 1 or 2 years. But then he